everyone, and welcome to this Futbol Americas Special. I'm Alexis Nunes. Now, Mallorca is a La Liga club with a very American ownership twist. An NBA champion, an NBA MVP, a former U.S. men's national team star, and a former pro tennis player, all reflecting on what they've learned over the last 10 years running a club in Spain. So let's start with the simplest question, shall we? How did this even happen? Well, Sid Lowe asked it twice, and both answers point back to one place, the Phoenix Suns, and an opportunity they couldn't ignore. Here's Sid Lowe with the origin story.
Shall we start with the obvious joke? Basketball player, a tennis player, and a footballer walk into Mallorca. Bartender says, "What are you guys doing here?" So, what are you guys doing here?
You start, because I'm here really because of Steve.
Yeah, I mean, really, it was the Phoenix Suns ownership group that was looking around Europe to purchase a football club. Football was my first sport. Family's from the UK. They knew that I was a fanatic, so they asked if I wanted to come in at some point, and that was when they'd gotten to Spain. I think they looked around the championship, looked around Scotland, realized it was, pretty pricey in the championship with a high level of risk, and so they kind of got excited about Spain. I think it was probably the third club was the one we settled on, and it was Mallorca, which I think has turned out to just be such a gem and such a gift for us to just be a part of that community, the island, the Balearics, the club. We turned 100, I think, in our first couple of years. So just that history, culture, and the sweetness of the islands has been an unbelievable experience for us.
The connection is the Phoenix Suns. Steve Nash, myself, Sarver, and Steve all were there at various times together. And then Steve Nash and Stu Holden have been very good friends for a long time, so that was the connection early on. And we felt that, as I said earlier, that athletes understand winning mentality. And then from a marketing and press perspective, we felt there was some benefit back 10 years ago now that nobody knew us really in Europe, but Steve Nash and Stu were known in their respective sports, and that kind of helped kind of move things along, because nobody knew me certainly, and Sarver only from the Suns.
Why were you the ownership group in the first place? What is it that brings all of you together as people, not necessarily as investors?
Well, sports, and that's how Steve and I got connected, through soccer, through football, and then to Andy and that ownership group from the Phoenix Suns, and that came through basketball. And I remember Steve calling me saying, "Hey, I've been offered the opportunity to be part of a group that's looking to buy a European football team. Are you interested?" And how often do you get that call? And it was just an instant yes, but also then when you do it with a lot of like-minded people. Andy was a professional tennis player, Steve professional basketball player, me a former professional footballer. I think we're very aligned in how we see professional sports and our values for success. It's not a hard sell, by the way, when Andy's like, I think we're going to land on Mallorca. Yeah, good call, Andy. It's a great choice.
From my standpoint, when you get older and you can't compete anymore on the pitch, on the court, you still want to be involved. You still want to be engaged, and this is so much fun to be, part of a team where, we're past our playing days, but we do have some wisdom when it comes to what it takes to win. And when Andy approached me about this, it was a no-brainer. We've been friends for a long time. Obviously, I work together with Steve Nash in Phoenix with the Suns, and so it's you want to just really look forward to the people you're working with, to seeing them every single day and being together and collaborating. So this is just a really fun project for me.
The number one thing that I've noticed from the beginning, the first dinner that I had with Steve and then with Andy, was there's never once been a conversation about an exit strategy and this, at the end of the day, is a business investment, and you wouldn't be putting your money in this as just purely a passion project, but this has all been for a long-term view, and I think that has ultimately resonated and built trust with people on the island, and that we've never sat around and said, well, if we do this, this, and this, we could sell the club for that. We're not thinking about that, and haven't thought about that, quite frankly, from the beginning. I've never heard that come out of Andy's mouth once, and that's what I love about it, is that we've been able to invest in it the same way we have as players. we've been able to get connected in a different way with the club and the island, that not understanding we're here for 5 years and we can't get too close. We're thinking about, the academy, everything we just started a girls academy as well, down to the first team, the way the stadium is. That's what makes me the most proud, sitting here 10 years later, thinking about what we have accomplished in 10 years together, but also about the future, and what the next 10 years brings.
Tell me about the transition from athlete to owner. I am assuming, tell me if I'm wrong, that when you are an athlete, you think, this guy hasn't got a clue, the owner hasn't got a clue, and now you're the owners. What's that transition like? And why did you want to, why own a club? Why not just kind of get on with?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think to be connected to sport. Obviously Stu playing and me growing up with football, it's just something we both super passionate about. For me, it's a new opportunity to be involved on the football side. I think though you come in having played professional sports with a recognition that it's not easy to be an owner. The number one thing is to learn, to listen, to have an appreciation for all the factors that go into building success. So we definitely wanted to come in and have reverence and respect for the club and the island, for the fans, for the culture that's permeated there for 100 years, and just try to see where can we add value, where can we just be sound of mind, simple, and make positive changes and affect the club in a positive way. So we definitely didn't come in like, right, we're going to change the whole thing, we're going to throw this out, that out, we'll show you how to do it. We came in really wanting to learn, listen, observe, see where we could add value, and I think that's been a recipe that's been successful, is trying to take what is a great club with a great history, culture, and tradition and see where we can add little bits and pieces to make it more solid, more foundational.
Does it matter that it's soccer? I mean, could it have been a different sport? If you'd seen an opportunity in basketball, might you have gone in that direction instead?
Not in Europe, because
Right.
we felt that European football is the most important sport in Europe, and whether it's Spain, England, wherever, and we felt that was really important. And that in Mallorca, it's the number one sport on the island and the most important social event on the island, so we felt that was really important as well.
How often do you get to watch the games? How closely can you follow it from here?
Well, I have them on my phone, so I have the alerts, I have, the subscriptions to, whatever streaming device I need. And so I'm watching all the time, and I'm not heavily involved. What I love is just being part of a group that is so well connected and well-meaning and so effective. What Andy has done with the club is incredible, and to be a partner in all this is something that makes me very proud, and it gives me a connection to La Liga and to European football, but also to my friends who I'm on the same team with, and we occasionally have these group texts where Steve Nash and I will tell Andy that there's going to be a coup.
On the line.
Yeah, his job. If we don't win next week,
job's on the line. He texts him and Steve texts me.
So we have so much fun with it. But I'm really proud to be part of a group that has really started from down here and created something that I think is pretty special. It's pretty awesome.
Okay, so the why Mallorca is clear, but the deeper why is personal. What happens when elite athletes stop playing? Mallorca isn't just an investment for them, it's a new version of competing without lacing up.
Let me go to what you said earlier, because I think this is kind of it feels to me emotionally a key part of it, that idea of this as almost as a surrogate for competing.
Yeah.
So that takes you to retirement, I suppose, and it's a post-retirement thing to do. It's an ugly question, but what's retirement like?
What is retirement like?
Yeah, I mean,
well,
because there's that famous phrase, isn't there, that the sportsman dies twice.
Yeah,
Is
that's right.
that the case?
It is. Phil Jackson used to tell us that in Chicago, the older guys, he would say, when your career ends, there's a part of you that dies, and then you have to have rebirth, and you have to find new challenges. And he was the first one to ever share that phrase with me, and I understood it because I was really nervous about my own retirement. And I've been lucky. I've been able to stay in the game through coaching for a while, doing television. So I was able to kind of quench my competitive thirst by staying involved and through coaching, through competing in a different way. But I'm also just a massive sports fan. I watch everything, and I had really gotten into football, European football, and at the time when Andy came to me and asked if I wanted to be involved, it was a no-brainer, because as I've gotten older and expanded my horizons a little bit, I've taken an interest in football, and so this is just a wonderful opportunity.
When you retire, you say you miss it. Is there also a part of you that is just glad to get rid of it for a bit because it's so intense during your playing careers?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And for tennis, the travel was really hard. Basketball's difficult also, but it's different when you're with a group of guys and there's your schedule for the whole year. In tennis, you think you're there for a week, you lose first round, and what the hell do I do the rest of the week? And where do I go? Where do I practice? And so that part is really hard in tennis. So the traveling and the lifestyle is really, really tough in tennis.
Do you think players embrace your message more? Do you think you're able to reach them more because you've been athletes?
You should see Steve. Steve's delivered to the team many times in Spanish, and people are hanging on every word of Spanglish that he.
They are struggling to get anything out of it. That's for sure. Yeah.
But I mean, presumably, it is easier. And we come back to that thing I was saying to you earlier, that when you played, you probably thought the owner, what does he know? But they're looking at owners now who've been athletes, and they're aware that the pressure that comes with being an athlete, the pressure that comes with being famous, all of those things that come with it, which presumably are almost the hardest part of being a professional athlete, right? The degree of pressure, the degree of scrutiny, the degree of permanent judgment.
100%. Yeah, I mean, we can relate to that, but that's what you want.
This is really interesting, because I'd actually read a line from you somewhere. Apologies, I can't remember where was it, about you saying, "I want to be judged," and I was really struck by that, because there's a bit of me that thinks I would hate that, but I guess if that's what drives you.
I guess what I was trying to say is, you want pressure, you want to have to perform. To go do it when no one's watching or cares doesn't quite have the same illusion for me. I think, you always want to play well, even if you're playing at the park, but to get to play in front of people with stakes, where fans care, that's the ultimate, to be a competitor, to be in the arena. And so you have to be accepting that there's two outcomes, to win or to lose, to succeed or to fail. I think that's what makes it amazing to be a professional athlete, is that you're playing for something, there's skin in the game, and that pressure elevates everything. They're giving it their best to prepare every year to play the best they can, especially on that weekend when you come against them. You're trying to do the same thing, and then we get to meet and see who's the better on the day. And so that, where else do you really find that in life?
You're a Liverpool fan, right?
I am.
Why is that?
I'm a Liverpool fan because of Mo Salah. I lived in Egypt for 3 years when I was a kid. I was growing up outside of Cairo. My dad was a professor at the American University in Cairo. And I first saw Mo Salah play in the World Cup, I think, in 2018, and I was blown away, and I said, whoever that guy plays for, I'm going to cheer for. And it was very fortuitous, because they were just entering this, golden age with Jurgen Klopp and the whole team, and I've followed them ever since. But I really have taken to the game. I can't claim to be an expert at all, but I see a lot of similarities between basketball and European football. I have to be careful to not say soccer. I know you're the same way, but yeah.
That's a challenge, right?
It is.
To avoid that trap.
Yeah, because here you say football, everyone automatically thinks the NFL, but I'm going to say football.
Did you meet Mo Salah when you were in Liverpool when you went to visit?
I did. I went and visited their training session and had lunch with Jurgen Klopp and met Mo Salah and Virgil and Van Dijk, and it was an amazing experience. I've gotten to know Mikel Arteta through a coach's Zoom that I do with other coaches to try to learn from each other, and I've spent time with Jacoba in Mallorca, and that's one of my favorite things as a coach, is to visit with other coaches and learn how they're going about their business.
So if ownership is the new competition, what do champions actually bring to building a team culture? Kerr's coached dynasties. Nash ran NBA offenses like a chessboard. Their version of culture is way more specific than a slogan on a wall.
The thing it seems to me in your leadership group at Mallorca is that you have a load of people going in who understand the culture of sport. Is that the fundamental thing?
Yeah.
This is about understanding a culture?
Yeah, winning culture, yeah. Winning culture, right.
Can you define that to me? I mean, how would you define elite sport?
Well, I think it's what I said. It's getting a group of guys who are committed, passionate, and want to play for each other towards a common goal, rather than I'm playing for my next contract or playing for my brand, which is, you know, totally new to us as older athletes. But that's a big part of today's athlete, is the brand mentality. We never dealt with that in our days. So it's getting guys who are not so interested in that. They want to win collectively for each other and play as a team.
The thing we try to remind our young guys is, you know what the best thing for your brand is? Win.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, if you can win, then the brand builds, and it's sort of, you know, chicken or the egg type thing. But this idea is really easy to communicate, that, you know, you put the team before yourself and that you find a collective spirit. It's just really tricky. Every year is different, and every season in every sport, things happen. These are human beings we're dealing with, and when you can capture it all, and you definitely try to do things to capture it, as a coach, as a manager, you try to develop the spirit, but a lot of things are out of your control too. So I think part of the job of management when you're putting together a team is to try to understand some of those dynamics. If you have an entire team of young guys who haven't made it yet and they're all trying to establish themselves, it's not going to work. And it's probably not going to work if you have a whole team of older guys who, you know, aren't going to want to work that hard and maybe don't have the energy that they need. And so you really want to find a good balance in your team, not only balance in talent, but in experience and wisdom, and you want to try to find that right mix, but it's very, very difficult.
I think for us, look, you want a good culture, hire good people. Like you can do all the word exercises, all the thought examinations, but really it comes down to good people. So we try to come in and be good people, be understanding, be additive, but also know when to step out of the way. Like this is not our place to be in the locker room telling them what to do all the time. So it's been a project that I think we've really learned a lot. I think we've been able to add and help the club build its infrastructure, be more competitive, but essentially it comes down to having players that are competitive, that love the game, want to fight for each other, be collaborative, and like Stu said, buy into what the coach's messages are. So we just try to augment that, support that, build that, help it where it needs a push, but people are what's going to take it over the line in the end.
And I think the personality of the people that Andy pulled together in this group is high performance, high level, successful athletes, people that have different backgrounds and cultures. And speaking to that is not going in day one and saying this is how to do it. It's this is how we think it could look. How do you guys see it? And finding something in the middle that works. I mean, and Steve and I were very similar in the way that we think and different sporting life, all of that, but then we don't agree on everything, and I love that we have debate and we can talk things through. And it's the same with Andy. Every time we have conversations about the team, and I would say it's a true value of the organization that we have the resources that we do have available between Steve and Steve Kerr and Andy, and that's what honestly is the most fun thing about that, is all of us coming together and around being owners of a European football club, which is pretty crazy. You think back, 15, 20 years, not that many people were doing that, and people would say, you guys are crazy, you don't know anything about football. But at the end of the day, we know about sport and life and business, and all of that together has seemed to have had success to this point.
The way you project your career is that you were sort of the second string, which always seems to me to be a very humble way of putting it. But does that help in terms of reaching players and saying, listen, I've been on that side of it. I wasn't Jordan. I wasn't.
Right.
Yeah, I can really connect with the guys who are reserve players and come off the bench because I've lived their existence. And then it's easy for me to go to the star players and say, in all honesty, I have no idea what you go through because I never went through that.
Yeah.
But I did observe some of the greatest players ever and have to live their lives in the microscope. Michael Jordan and Tim Duncan and, Scottie Pippen, all these guys that I played with. So I do have a feel for what the star players go through, but I can't possibly understand it from their own perspective. And I think the players appreciate that I can look at it from a player's standpoint since I played for 15 years.
One of the things when Steve came and spoke to our players in Mallorca that he said to our players was that it's really important for the best players on the team to really care about the guys who are on the bench and not playing, and to lift them up. And if the star player on the team disregards and disrespects the players who are not playing, it creates a really divisive environment on a team, and it's really hard to be successful when your top players don't really care about the rest of the guys on the team.
And from a competitive point of view, presumably those best players are the ones that set the bar as well for everybody else to try and reach, right?
That's right, yeah.
From a player's point of view then, do you sometimes look at people like Jordan and think, thank God I wasn't him? Because much as that, I'm sure there's a part of you that thinks I would have loved to have had his money, his fame, his talent, but actually I remember you telling me about, I think it was Mats Wilander saying that he preferred not to be number one.
Right.
I think there's something to that for sure. I mean, there's a level of pressure that Steph Curry and Michael Jordan and that level of player face every single day to live up to the standards that they have set their entire career, and it's virtually impossible. And so the pressure that comes from that is I mean, then you look at the 15th guy on the roster, and the pressure for him is, I got to make the team. I have to, pay my bills. I have to feed my family, and so every guy has a unique set of circumstances. And when it really clicks, and one of the reasons we've had a great run with the Warriors is because Steph Curry has so much humanity about him. He understands this dynamic, and he lives up somehow to the standards that he has set for himself. And he has amazing compassion and empathy for the guys who are at the other end of the roster.
Now the fun part. What can basketball steal from football, and what can football steal back? If you've ever watched the Warriors move without the ball, just listen to how Kerr and Nash describe football patterns. It's pretty much the same language.
Is there a tactical and/or technical crossover? Can you watch a football match, for example, and see things that you think I could apply to basketball and vice versa?
The one thing that I see very clearly is three-man groups. That's the main similarity. I read about the games, after the fact, and I'll read about formations. I have a hard time recognizing the formation, while I'm watching. But what I recognize is the play in triangles, small triangles of three guys. One guy passes to the other guy's cutting, making a run, exactly the same as basketball.
That's because you learned the Phil Jackson triangle.
That's right. And that's the similarity to me. But I can't claim to be, an expert on the game, but I really enjoy watching.
I've always been struck by the idea of the triangle offense as being something so simple and so clear cut that it seems almost incredible that it was new, if you sort of mean. Why did it take Phil Jackson to see that?
Well, the interesting part of it is the offense was actually, when we were running it in the 90s, the offense was about 40 years old. It was developed in the 50s. But everyone went away from it. And like football, the game evolves. Watching a football game now compared to 10 years ago is dramatically different. All the pressing, and basketball is similar. It goes in these trends. And so in the 90s, the trend was in the NBA to throw the ball into the center, Patrick Ewing or Shaq or, these monster guys down there, and just have that guy back down. And so Phil wanted to do something different, and his assistant coach was Tex Winter, who had developed the triangle as a college coach in the 50s and 60s, and he decided to go back to that. And so that's something I've found as a coach is that as the game evolves and you go to these new trends, there's always things to be gained from the way things happened before, and so you have to go back into an old bag of tricks sometimes too.
If tomorrow you employed Steve to be the coach of Mallorca, would he succeed?
Absolutely. I think all he would need is a good assistant who knew the tactics, and they could do just fine. Yeah. They'd be great.
How many players are on a football team? 12? It wouldn't matter. I'd be fine.
He would be. But it's the mentality of getting the players motivated and playing together is more important than tactics. There are lots of people who can do the tactics. That's not the problem.
I don't know if this is a stupid question, but are there things that basketball can take from football. When you play basketball, are there things that football somehow can influence, and vice versa?
Yeah.
Am I reaching here, or
No,
is
no,
that
for sure. I'm not sure I would have played in the NBA if it wasn't for my football background, to be honest. I think it opened up a lot of ideas and things in me that allowed me to be different as a basketball player. You know, to play point guard in the NBA, there's kind of 30 starting point guards in the world, and they're all like incredible athletes, explosive, powerful, generally. So I was a good athlete, but I was more athletic in balance, coordination, rhythm, timing, creativity. And so without football and the ideas and having to always have an idea and a picture of what you want to do before you receive the ball and thinking of different ways for a ball to get places, you know, when I started playing basketball, I almost felt like I was cheating, that I could use my hands to get balls over the top, underneath, spin the ball, slide the ball, things that were common in soccer but more difficult because you had to use your feet. So I think I got a great advantage as a basketball player because of my history playing soccer.
And that's about seeing angles, is it?
Yeah.
Seeing
Angles,
movements.
spaces, timing, how much time does that space have versus this space, and who's coming and what's the next pass, and all that stuff is very similar. A lot of triangles, you know, a lot of connective tissue. How do you keep an offense moving? In football and basketball, you can draw a lot of parallels.
So can you literally watch a football game, and think, that can be applicable? I could take that one thing that I've just seen. Are you how do I put this? Are you learning things from football that you can see a practical application for in basketball?
I think that's a little more difficult. I think you not necessarily, like, I think over the course of time, you can find things that are applicable. Not watching one game, I could use that in a basketball game. But over the course of time, ideas, concepts, there is some crossover. In the moment, I think you have an appreciation for the way someone turns on the ball or uses space or does a bounce pass or, you know, makes different plays and it takes advantage of space and time. But while there is a lot of crossover, it's not necessarily one for one or like for like.
One of the areas in which it seems to me that football is moving in that direction, but maybe not at the point of US sports, is the use of statistics for this kind of thing. And I guess part of the reason is presumably that basketball is statistically really pure and everything can be measured in a way that maybe we can't take that into soccer. Do you see a value of heavy data in soccer to the extent of basketball or American football?
I do. I believe that the data is very valid in soccer. I believe that we can continue to improve and refine how they collect, measure, and read data. I actually think the top clubs are doing it anyways, and some of the smarter, cheaper kind of budgets. In basketball, it's becoming incredibly important. I think the game is influenced hugely by the numbers and the data. I think it's not far behind in football, to be honest. I think it's a powerful part of the totality, and it's not the only thing. It's a part of it, but it's an immovable part of it in my eyes.
Is the real connecting thing across sport about team building? Obviously, a sport like tennis is different because it's an outlier, because it's an individual sport. But it in the end, does it come down to people?
Yeah, I think 100%, because you can go through all the data that you want. You can sign the most expensive players. But at the end of the day, it is the harmony between the coach, the locker room, the players on the field, and performance. And I would say the most successful teams I have been a part of in my career were the ones that were the most harmonious, and those were the best memories, where the team was connected off the field. The team was, as Steve said, this connected tissue on the field. Everybody's performing, motivated at a high level, and I think that's something that translates across all sports. That's not just football, it's not just basketball. And that's human characteristics, and understanding what it takes to push the right buttons in the right moment, and that's a big part of our job, is to help get this harmonious effect at the club with our sporting director, our CEO, ownership, the players on the field, to make sure that everybody's in the right position and has the most tools to succeed. And I think that's when we've seen the best performances on the field. I mean, we still have players in our squad today that were with us in the third division, and that speaks to what we've been able to turn around a culture and a club that was lost for an identity, to help build some of the most important figures in our club's history. A guy like Abdon Prats, who scores a goal that gets us back to La Liga, but is from Mallorca. We have eaten dinner at his mom's restaurant, and things and people like that are important, and to value those people, to elevate those people, and to make sure that, as you said, that the most important defining factor is success on the field, and that comes through all the work that you don't necessarily see on a day-to-day basis, but it's people.
Patterns are one thing, pressure is another. And modern athletes live under a microscope. Every owner wants results, but these guys keep coming back to the same thing. People first, because pressure hits everyone differently.
I could sit here and run off a catalogue of the players you've played with and the players you've coached, and presumably each of them responds differently to different stimuli.
Yeah. And as a coach, you can't treat every player the exact same way. You need to have a set of standards and that you ask them to live up to, but every player is different. I frankly give my more experienced players a little more leeway than I give my younger players, and I think people understand that within the group. But every day is different, every season is different, and as a coach, as a manager, you're constantly evaluating what's happening for each player, what's happening in their own story, their own journey, and trying to help them get the best out of themselves, and in turn, that helps get the best out of the team.
How does Mallorca fit into this kind of mechanics? Because obviously, let's use the obvious name in your case. You deal with someone like Michael Jordan, or you deal with someone like Steph Curry, and then you deal with a club that's not at the very peak of its sport. Do those mechanics change because of that?
I think so. I think it takes a different profile of coach to deal with, at Real Madrid or Barcelona versus Mallorca. It's dealing with the elite top players is a different skill set in managing that as part of a team, I think, than a team like ours that doesn't have any, top 5 players in the world. So I think it's a different skill set, and I think in the NBA it's a little bit similar, that there's a little bit of a different skill set for that elite teams. So it is a different environment, different skill set.
And even within that, presumably some players are different to others. I mean, there's obviously the famous story of your fight with Michael Jordan, and that seems to be a problem, but actually becomes the beginning of something, the beginning of a relationship.
Yeah, after I kicked his ass, he really respected me. Sorry. I was just kidding, Michael, if you happen to see this. No, I think the modern player has to deal with so much more than we did back in our day. I mean, totally. Just the social media, the eyeballs, the phones. These players, they see the criticism and the judgment every day, hourly, and it's hard to avoid. It was pretty easy to avoid back in our day. You just didn't read the paper, and maybe there was like a talk radio show for a couple of hours a day. Don't listen to that. Don't read the paper. Ignorance is bliss, and it was much easier for a team to operate with some privacy. So, for example, that incident you mentioned when we got into the fight, it didn't even make it out until, I don't know, a year later or something. And, the same thing happened with our team with the Warriors a few years ago. Draymond Green got into a fight with Jordan Poole, and not only did it get out instantly, the video got out, and we still don't know how. And so what these guys have to deal with today is just dramatic.
As athletes, tell me what it was like to lose then?
Yes. I don't know, I didn't lose much.
I thought you said earlier on that you named your teams earlier on.
I lost. I just don't remember them. I shift them aside.
But I mean, in all seriousness, how does an athlete, as you say, it's this or this, and I absolutely want this. What happens when it falls on the wrong side? What happens when you lose, which you'll lose often as well?
You lose a lot in sports. I tell my kids, nobody's won it all every time. Like Messi's lost how many World Cups before he won. So the reality is that is a part of being an athlete, is losing, and trying to allow losing to come in the right perspective. What can you take from it? How resilient can you be? How can it build scars and allow you to be better in the future? So losing is as valuable as winning. Winning is the goal, but losing actually brings you a lot more in life and in sport.
Yeah. You should have seen us during the Copa del Rey final. It was like, we're hunched over during penalties. We're nervous the whole day. Sick to our stomachs at the end. Not for us, but for the players, honestly, and the supporters. We just had, I will still say it was one of my best experiences as being part of this ownership group, of being there, the dinner the night before, the whole rigmarole of, the King's Cup, and we're in the final, and we're in Seville, and our fans, I remember taking up, half of the stadium, and knowing how proud they were of the group of players that day that fought heroically. We go all the way to penalties. We lose in heartbreaking fashion, but still I remember Steve saying this to me after we missed that penalty. He goes, "Can you remember though where we were? We would never even have dreamed of being sitting in these seats in the director's box in this stadium 8 years ago when we took over the club and we were chasing footballs in a swimming pool in the 3rd division. You know, we were here in the cup final and just so immensely proud of the club on that day, as much as it was heartbreaking for everybody involved, and I wish we could have won, but truly, like, that was one of the proudest moments I think that I had certainly, of being a part of this group to be in that moment. But yeah, the losing sucks, you know, but I know what those players felt in that moment, and seeing them crying, and I wish I could have been on the field and kicked the ball that day. But I remember losing, you know, a Gold Cup final with the USA. We got spanked by Mexico 5-0. Worst game I've been a part of in my career. But that loss I probably learned more from than you do in the wins sometimes.
But you don't see that until later.
You don't, because you can't. It's so hard to have that perspective in the moment.
There was a comment, I don't know if you saw it not long ago, from Diego Simeone, the coach of Atletico Madrid, and he was talking about victory brings relief. It doesn't bring joy. Is that an emotion you recognise?
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes, especially when it's a really important match that, you know, you're supposed to win, and it's tight and close and you barely squeak by, it's more relief than joy. So yeah, I've experienced that lots of times.
Do you come to hate the sport? I mean,
I've never hated the sport, no.
No.
How do you under all that pressure, how do you maintain the joy part, not the relief part?
I think what I've learned about coaching is that you have to have a set of values that you live by, win or lose, you know,
right.
and joy is actually a core value of our team. And but you can't just write it on the wall of the training center. It has to come to life. And I think that the way we go about our business, we really inject joy into our daily rituals, and that means, you know, playing music during training. It means allowing the players' kids to come onto the practice floor after games. You know, win or lose, they come spilling onto the practice floor after our games. Our practice floor is connected to our main arena, and so players come down the stairs. Win or lose, their kids are all running towards them on the practice floor. They love that. That's you know, we celebrate our players' accomplishments, and you know, weddings or birth of children, and there's a human part of this that transcends winning and losing that is really important for me.
All right, now zoom out. What does it mean to own a club in Europe versus a franchise in America? In Spain, you inherit the club like a family name. In the US, teams can feel like entertainment products. Mallorca's ownership has tried to live in the middle without losing what makes the club the club.
Put in the most simple terms, is there a difference between a club and a franchise?
I think related to European football, it is different. It is such, you know, I call it, it feels more like tribal warfare over there. People have generations of following the same team. Whereas in the US, there's more mobility. People move from New York to San Francisco, they become a Warriors fan. You know, if you move from Madrid to Barcelona, you do not become a Barcelona fan. You know, so it's generational, it's different, it's more deeply ingrained and embedded in families and generations. Rafa Nadal's family split between Barca and Real Madrid. You don't kind of hear that thing as much. You know, there's still American fans are incredibly passionate and love it, but there's a longevity and a depth to European basketball. I'm not speaking about European basketball. I'm just talking about European football. There's a depth and a passion to it that's a little bit more intense there.
Is that a challenge as a club? Because obviously, we've talked about this before. Part of the idea is to bring US ideas to Mallorca because you can develop the business side of it, but being aware that possibly the pressure of what we're now calling legacy fans, not a phrase I particularly like, but it's what we're calling them now, that there's a pressure there that maybe is greater than it would be in a US franchise? It's
both. It's an opportunity and it's a pressure. If you balance it like we're trying to do, bringing in fresh ideas with a stadium and new opportunities for VIP areas, along with still catering to the old, the legacy fan who's come for generations and bring a sandwich with their grandkids. As long as you make both of them comfortable and have a better experience for both, then it's the best of both. But you can go overboard and alienate the long-term fans, and that's a huge problem. And so you got to be really careful not to alienate your core fan base who have been generational for the club.
Let's go to best of both then. If you could take one thing from US sports and put it in European soccer, and one thing from European soccer and put it in US sport, what would you go for?
It's a great question. What Andy just mentioned is really important, that there are affordable seats, tickets to European football games. And in the United States, we've priced out the middle income, lower income fans who want to come to the game. They cannot afford it. And it's reflective of the economy, the American economy. It's the wealth gap. And it's a shame. It's very sad, because I was the son of a professor, and we were middle class. And my dad would take us to games, to the Dodger baseball games in the summer. My brother and I would go with our dad, and it would be a $10 day. It was $3 for a ticket and $1 for parking, and we would bring in a jug of lemonade and a sandwich, and we could afford that, and we did it 5 times every summer. And I still am a Dodger fan based on my connection with my brother and my dad going to the game. We have an entire generation now of people who love the sport, and they can't afford to attend, and it's terrible. So I'd like to bring that.
Right. And I think there's a belief in European football that it is a sport for everybody, and it needs to be affordable and remain affordable. And we still have $10 or €10 tickets. So we're trying to do that, and that's what I meant earlier about balancing and the opportunity for both, and not pricing people out of it. But that's an ethos, I think, in Europe that is much stronger and better, frankly, than here, because here it just charges as much for every ticket as you can, and we're trying to improve the fan experience for both. The legacy fan have been coming for generations, as well as a European, tourist, or somebody who has a home on Mallorca who wants a VIP experience. There might be a Bayern Munich fan, but they love coming to watch a game right on the pitch and have great food and stay afterwards for 2 hours. And so we're trying to improve the fan experience for both groups.
It's not always joyous, and relegation is hard, but it's one of the things that differentiates European sport from American sport, is the existence of relegation.
Yeah.
From a US or North American perspective, at least, do you look at relegation and think, I'm really pleased we've got it in European football? Or do you look at American sports and think, we'd be much better off without this?
I love it. I think it's great. I mean, it opens up so many possibilities for so many different fan bases, clubs, countries. There's a lot going on, which makes it brilliant. As you know, often the relegation battle is more exciting than the title race. So I think that possibility gives fans and players and clubs dreams, and I think to have dreams is what sport's all about. So it's brilliant. I wish we had it more in the United States, but it's great that we get to be a part of it, even if we're a little bit too close to the relegation zone at the moment.
Talking about bringing one thing from each country, there's a couple of things that I've always thought were really interesting in the difference. Obviously, the whole structure of American sports without relegation, which creates stability but removes excitement and possibly introduces tanking. Is that something that could be addressed from a European point of view?
Ooh, that's a hard one. It's so embedded culturally. I mean, you saw it when they tried the Super League. The revolt from the fans about not, eliminating relegation was huge. And here, I tell people about relegation here, and they scratch their heads and go, "What? How is that possible?" They can't wrap their head around it. So I think it would be very difficult to change that. But who knows? Maybe somebody comes up with some solution.
Yeah.
But it's really deeply embedded in both cultures.
I think the difference is here, all of the franchises are in cities that can afford to lift up each team economically. And if can you imagine you relegate New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago, and you add Tulsa and Tucson and I don't know, Fort Lauderdale. I mean, it just it wouldn't make sense economically. And but I think relegation is amazing. I think just the competition it generates for every single match all season long is something we lack here. Our NBA season is 82 games, and by the end of the season, there's a lot of games against teams at the bottom, and they're actually jockeying for position to pick higher in the draft, and they're incentivized to lose, and that makes no sense at all.
I look at the US, I look at North American sports as being the home of ultra capitalism. And here you are, if dare I use the word, with a socialist system. A system that says, all right, the worst teams get the best players. And it kind of creates a renewal and a regeneration of competition. Obviously, the structures are different in Europe because you haven't got a collegiate structure, you haven't got that kind of, if you like, collective youth system through which academy players can then be available to all the clubs. But is this something in that idea that European football could benefit from, that if there was some way, somehow, of redistributing the wealth and the talent?
Well, I like to call it a controlled parity. And the parity, why I think can be beautiful at times, is because it can give you a hope as a fan. If you're a fan of a team that's been the worst team in the league for 10 years, there's still hope that on that 11th year you can be a contender for a Super Bowl, an NBA championship. Whereas if you look truly over the history of the European leagues for the past, well, whatever you want, I mean, even in La Liga, it's been Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid, Barcelona. We don't really have a realistic hope that we can win the league in the short term because we know we can't afford the same amount of players, we don't have the same type of budget. And so sure, would part of me love that for our fans and for our club if we had a more realistic and fair chance to potentially win the league at some point? Yeah, I would love that. But also I love the capitalistic side where it's like, you know, if you want to invest in your team and you have the money to do so, you can actually see that translated in the success. And that's what we did in the second division. We spent well and we invested well, and we're in the top division, and we are reaping the rewards. So I think what would be nice is maybe a happy married medium. I can see this happening for MLS at some point. At the moment, it's a closed system of 30 clubs. I can see as the league grows and you increase spending, you implement some form of a promotion relegation, and you can structure it in a way that still allows new teams to come in, and you still have it in the top division where if you're spending more, like Inter Miami are right now, you win a championship. So maybe that's some version of the future. And I've heard college football actually talk about this recently, of maybe promotion relegation and having a single tier system. But you know, it's people's money at stake. You're asking people to commit money in the MLS for a sport that really hasn't broken through, as Steve said, to be this wise old man yet. And if you're investing that money, you want some security to go along with that, and that's why that structure exists.
Mallorca's story sits right at the intersection of where the sport is going. Global audiences, local identity, and a World Cup coming to this region. And that tension shows up perfectly in one debate. Should La Liga ever bring a real game to the United States?
So from a US perspective, but also US perspective of being involved in a Spanish club, and we were talking about the difference of fandom in the two places and the difference between a franchise and a club. Was that played out, in your view, from the reaction towards the possibility of Villarreal playing Barcelona in Miami, and that maybe European fans automatically think, no way, whereas perhaps American fans automatically think, why not?
I think it's happening a lot in the U.S. right now, especially the NFL. You're seeing the NFL understanding and recognizing the growth possibilities of a global sport and trying to play games in different parts of the world. What I would say is I don't see them in the same way, and I actually think that American sports traditionally, you know, basketball, baseball, football, are seeing that the investment that has gone into the game, they're trying to expand that and build new fans. Soccer doesn't really have that problem around the world. It is already the global sport. And so when it comes to soccer games or league games being played in other countries, I think it was a trial, and what they got was pretty instant feedback from the fans that said that we're not quite ready for that. And so what I would say from our perspective is that, yeah, open to the possibility of doing that at some point in the future, but with the supporters being at the forefront of that and listening and understanding what works and what would work for them. So yeah, that seems to be on hold for now, and that obviously is driven through commercial interests. But from our standpoint, we want to more so just wait and see how that continues to progress. And if at some point it makes sense and our fans are on board with us being a part of that, then maybe it makes sense at that time. But from our standpoint, I think it's just, you know, the soccer's in Spain is thriving, and we like the direction and the growth that it's going, and I don't think that we necessarily need that right now.
Is that the fundamental difference in a way, I suppose, that a Spanish club, well, it could, but a Spanish club is going to be far more reluctant than a US club to go against its, if you like, its local base, its legacy fans, its core support?
Yeah, you know, I just don't think that American fans as passionate about their team going abroad. NBA teams go American football teams go. I think the situation with La Liga having games in the United States is just something that we have to be very thoughtful about. I think if it's always Madrid and Barcelona playing an away game in the United States, which essentially becomes a home game, I think this is probably going to be something that no fan's going to enjoy or like. But if there is a real thought around it, a fairness, an equity in this, and a long-term vision as to why are we going over there, how are we going over there, what does it look like, what's the impact, what are we trying to accomplish, then I think things can become tenable for fans and they can get behind it. But right now I think it's a situation where you just have to be very careful, very thoughtful, and you have to respect what the fans feel and why they feel that way.
I would guess that our fan base would not like us playing Barcelona in Miami either. But if you look at it from the game's perspective, it's probably a good thing from a PR and brand recognition thing for Barcelona to play Villarreal in Miami. I think that's a good promotion opportunity. It's good for La Liga, it's good for the game, but the local fan bases may not like it. So it depends really which perspective you're looking at it from.
Yeah, we've been doing it in the NBA for years. The NFL does it. There are games in Europe every season. So it doesn't bother us. I guess we're used to it, and we understand it's part of, as Andy's saying, just popularizing the game globally.
Do you feel a difference here? I mean, you're talking about the difference in Mallorca and how people respond to you. Do you feel like soccer and European soccer is opening a path in the US over the last 10 years? And obviously, I mean, how much difference is the World Cup going to make on that?
Oh, huge. I mean, soccer is not a sport of the future. Soccer is a sport of the now in the United States. And you see that people are going to see that and experience it in a completely different way with the World Cup next summer. We talk a lot about how we can capitalize on that as a club as well, while still staying true and authentic to who we are as Mallorca, not trying to compete in the same ways that Barcelona, Real Madrid, because there's a reason everybody comes to the US. It's a huge commercial market, but we at the end of the day are a Spanish football club, and I think more so now with the access that people have to the sport, European sport, South American, wherever it might be, that people can grow up here in the US still with a dream of playing Spanish soccer or playing English soccer, and that's what I love about football, is that it's a world sport, and there's not 30 jobs as a point guard in the NBA. There's 30,000 jobs to, and beyond, to be a center midfielder at some point and somewhere in the world. And I would love it in a world at some point where we get more American players that come to Mallorca and can have success and be meaningful parts of our first team.
Does the US need a good World Cup?
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Are you going to have one?
I think by our standards, if we're saying quarterfinals, I think we will have a good World Cup. Yeah.
And what about Canada?
Canada's exciting. It's until Qatar, we hadn't been to the World Cup since I was 10 years old. So I was 84. So just the fact that we're in games against quality sides, that we're in back-to-back World Cups, obviously we're hosting this one but qualify for the last one. The fact that we've beat the US, we've beat Mexico in the last cycle, those are things that just didn't happen previously. So it's just a lot of excitement. And for Canadians, for the World Cup to be here and our team to be playing and have a little bit of a reputation right now is actually a really fun place to be. So anything can happen with our team. I think we have the ability to surprise some people and also can show our experience at times. But super cool that the World Cup's coming to Canada, the US and Mexico. The game is huge here. It's just huge in a different way. It's a country of immigrants. So there's football fanatics from all over the world that live here. Americans are growing as far as their participation, their understanding. And as Stu said, it's everywhere now. You can watch every Premier League game. You can watch every La Liga game. You can watch every Champions League game. You can watch every MLS game. That was not the case 20, 25 years ago. So it's ubiquitous like all the other sports, and it's just reached in different ways, different markets, different peoples, and their affiliation in different clubs.
From a personal point of view, how does that make you feel that in a way that, maybe I'm over-expressing this, but the idea that you've everyone's come round to the sport that you loved. So you grow up with a sport that maybe isn't as big as you would love it to be. It's your sport. And now you go, hey, everyone's on board now.
Well, I think it's important not to be the fan of the indie rock band before they got famous, and then to tell everybody how cool they were before and you didn't know them how I knew them. It should not be our job to tell them that what they don't know about this sport. It's our job to help people fall in love with the sport, and soccer is how we met. Soccer is the basis of our friendship, and Steve's my best friend in life now, and we have that because of the sport. And I think I've gotten connected. Soccer's given me everything in life from when I was a kid. It gave me a job. It's given me a career after sport. It's given me my friends in life. And I think that's what sport's all about.
And if the World Cup can help deliver that for people, then so much the better.
Listen,
right?
if U.S. win a World Cup, I mean, this is kick football, basketball, kick them all out the window. We're gonna football for life. Yeah.
You can say that. You can tell him he's dreaming, right?
Yeah, I don't see it happening personally. It's not that they couldn't. It's just they got to get a system in place to do it, and that I think has a ways to go. But the game is big here, and it's fun to see people love the game. It's fun to see NBA players. When I came in the league, none of my teammates knew anything about soccer. Now they all have a favorite team. They all watch. They all know who Lamine Yamal is. They know it, whether it's through social media or just the popularity of the sport, and that it's ubiquitous, like I said, in this country. So it's cool to see other people come around to the game and accept it. Some fall head over heels for it. Some are just accepting, but that's how it starts and that's how it grows. And so the game's come a long, long way in the last 25 years here.
There's been a huge storm about the pricing of the World Cup tickets for next summer, but it feels like it's a storm that's coming from Europe. That maybe people are.
No, it's here too.
It's here too, is it?
Oh, everybody I talk to here is totally dismayed with the ticket pricing and the process.
Yeah.
Is there a risk that the World Cup doesn't have the, if you like, the social impact it should have here? Because
social impact
in a sense that it doesn't become the event that embraces everybody that it should be?
I think that may be the case. I mean, it's because the sites are spread out all over the country. I'm guessing that it may depend on who's playing where. When you talk about the ticket sales and the excitement, I think each site there may be a different level of interest, but I don't know. We'll see how it plays out.
10 years in, this isn't just an American ownership story anymore. It's a Mallorca story. What makes it work is what they keep coming back to: humility, listening, and earning trust in a community that lives and breathes this club. So to close, we look back at how far Mallorca has come and why this decade matters.
If you look back now across these 10 years and you think about where the club is at and where you've come from, what emotion does that stir in you?
A lot of pride. We came in and the club felt very unsettled in a way. So to come in and feel like there's not only been results, but infrastructure, the stadium's improved, the training ground's improved, the quality of everything in general has gone up a level or two. Being in the Liga obviously is a byproduct of that and also fuels that. So when you look back over the course of the 10 years, there's a lot of pride. Like Stu said, we didn't come in to flip this. So it's a part of our lives. We don't want to be out. We want to be in. If the club gains more value, great. That's not why we're here. We're here because we love to be a part of this special club culture and support it every weekend and hopefully add value as we go along here. But it's just been an unbelievable experience and a lot of pride and a lot of great memories for the fans, the people, the players, and everyone involved.
The true honesty, by the way, and why we actually were part owners of a football club is so we could continue our professional careers. And so for the first couple of years, actually, we would join in with the academy and we would train with the first team. And we'd fly over there. It was scouting for future coaches. But we noticed the further up the leagues we got, we started getting put with the B team, the academy, and now we're training with
At which point do you feel completely crushed and just think, I've had enough of this?
And we felt for 5 minutes pretty good. And then it was at one point one of our players asked me, so do you like soccer? And I was thinking, I played in the Premier League, man. What are you on about?
100%.
But those were fun moments for us, and I think that's part of the journey when we think about, I don't know, Mallorca from the beginning, from when we got there to now. And remember, showering in the coach's locker room and the shower heads falling off, and us calling Andy saying, "Look, I think we've got to upgrade the first team showers here, man. It's getting out of control." And now to walk, we were just in Mallorca in the summer. I mean, our training ground is unbelievable. The new stadium is just incredible, and I'm proud that we've now been able to help create an environment, I think, that is reflective of where we are, which is a La Liga club, and have been now 5 years in the first division. And I think that's what is giving us the most enjoyment.
I don't know if I'm pushing this too hard now, but does football have to have an ethical side to it, a moral side to it, a social side to it to work? Is that true of all sports?
Absolutely. Are you talking about it for a team to function?
For a team
or
to function, to understand the sport? Does the sport have to have something more than the court or the pitch or the diamond?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, sport is such a big part of community I mean, you see the impact that that the Mallorcan team has, you know, in the country, in Spain, on the island. Same thing with the Warriors in the Bay Area. There's such a bigger impact than just did we win or lose, and I think that's important. We have to be important members of our community and impact our communities as best we can.
If you look back on this 10 years for Mallorca and you look forward at what's happening next, what does it make you feel, and what does it make you think about the journey you've been on?
Well, we're very proud as I look to the next 10 years. I hope it's not a roller coaster of up and down in 5 different divisions in 5 years.
Oh, but that's the fun of it, isn't it? That's what makes it good.
So I hope not, but I hope, you know, we're proud of what we've been through and accomplished with the up and down. I think it's close to historic if anybody's ever done 5 years in 5 divisions before. But, you know, we were looking for stability and long-term success, and I think we've got a good foundation, a great management team in Mallorca, and I think the future looks good.
When you zoom out, Mallorca is a reminder that football isn't just a product. It's identity. And the best ownership stories aren't about taking over. They're about showing up, listening, and earning your place in a community that was here long before you. 10 years later, Mallorca's still climbing, but they've come a long way together. Thanks to Sid Lowe for guiding the conversation, and to Andy Kohlberg, Steve Kerr, Steve Nash, and Stuart Holden for sharing it so openly. For everyone at Mallorca and the fans on the island, here's to the next chapter. I'm Alexis Nunes, and this has been Futbol Americas. Hasta la próxima.